Welcome, UPSC aspirants, to today's Explainer. I'm Faculty A, and as always, I'm joined by Faculty B. Today, we're taking a really deep dive into a critical piece of India's defense architecture for your General Studies Paper 3. We're analyzing the Indian Navy's capabilities, zooming right in on Project 17A. It's a complex topic for sure, but we've structured it perfectly for your mains preparation. Let's get right to it.
Now, just to instantly grasp the national importance of this project, consider this massive financial scale. 45,000 crore rupees. When the government allocates this level of capital, you can absolutely bet that UPSC examiners are paying very close attention to the outcomes.
Absolutely spot on, Faculty A. And you know, grounding your preparation in authentic texts is absolutely crucial for your answers. Today, we're analyzing an excerpt titled At Sea to really unpack what we like to call the illusion of readiness. That's the hidden theme we need to understand today.
Right. So our flight path for today is straightforward. First, an introduction to Project 17A. Second, the indigenization paradox. Third, strategic mismatch and threats. And fourth, our UPSC mains and interview focus. These headings should literally form the index of your notes.
Starting right off with Section 1, getting our foundations right on Project 17A.
So what exactly is Project 17A? Basically, the aim here is to build 7 Nilgiri-class frigates. Think of them as an advanced complement to the existing Shivala-class frigates, and essentially a stepping stone to the upcoming Project 17B. Note the timeline here, aspirants. The project just delivered the INS Mahendragiri on April 30th. Please make sure you get these specific names and classifications phonetically and factually correct in your exams and interviews.
Moving to Section 2, let's explore a very interesting concept for your mains, the indigenization paradox.
Now look at the value breakdown. Project 17A boasts 75% indigenous components. On the surface, that sounds like a massive victory for domestic manufacturing, right? But the catch is the remaining 25%. These are absolutely critical parts sourced from abroad. We're talking high-end radars and sonars, and without them, the final integration is basically stalled. So India can build the hull? Sure, but we exercise very limited control over the actual completion timeline.
Exactly, and that brings us to a really severe warning flagged in a recent CAG report. There's a very dangerous gap between a ship being, quote-unquote, nominally complete on paper, meaning, it meets a commissioning date because the basic hull is built, versus being actually combat ready. The CAG found that the Navy has been inducting platforms that literally lack critical engines and sensors, and sometimes even without the supporting infrastructure being ready.
This leads us naturally into Section 3, strategic mismatch and threats.
Now, when you're evaluating defense procurements for your GS3 answers, you always have to compare the threat versus the response. Are we fighting piracy and smuggling? Yes, absolutely. But a high-end frigate? That's complete overkill. The Coast Guard is meant to handle those 2611-style scenarios. What about Houthi drone and missile activity? Okay, that definitely justifies multi-role frigates. But here is the major concern, PLAN, the People's Liberation Army Navy submarines. If our Indian hulls are missing those premium imported sensors we just talked about, we have absolutely no effective response to China's presence in our backyard.
That's a crucial point. Consider this striking analogy directly from our source material. Adding more surface combatants is like adding receivers to a network still transmitting a fuzzy picture. Think about that. India built the chain of static sensors right after the 2008 Mumbai attacks. But if our frigates' radars and sonars, which are the core detect aspect of our detect, decide, respond loop, are the most delayed components, well, these vessels simply cannot function as mobile sensors. The picture, sadly, remains fuzzy.
Let's wrap up with Section 4, the most high-yield part for you all, UPSC mains and interview focus.
When you're writing critically about defense indigenization in GS3, we strongly urge you to use these 3 exact arguments. First, explicitly reference the CAG's findings on the massive delays and the hundreds of design changes. Examiners look for that specific evidence. Second, highlight the risk that fleet expansion might actually be prioritizing the survival of domestic shipyards over meeting the actual immediate demands of our threat environment. And third, state very clearly that our sensor grid suffers from incomplete coverage simply because of this heavy import dependence.
Finally, let's conclude this explainer with a real-world interview simulation for you to practice. How should India balance sustaining domestic shipyards with immediate naval threat responses? Think about that massive 45,000 crore investment, that tricky 25% import dependency, and of course, the looming Chinese submarine threat. We want you to synthesize what you've learned today and formulate your own balanced, analytical stance. Thank you for joining us in this analysis, aspirants. Keep studying smart.